and telling you who I am, because some of you have never been on one of our webinars here. We do these every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Central Time and have for years and years, but some of you may not have been on one of these. So again, my name is Patrick Phillips. I'm the founder and CEO of American Business Systems. And I do these interviews because I'm interested in helping you to decide whether this is the right business for you. It's not for everybody, but as you do your due diligence, you'll want to attend these webinars and learn as much as you can about the business. We answer lots of questions and go into some detail about how much money you can make, whether it's a franchise, territories. We cover all of that in many of these webinars, and today I'll cover a little bit about that. So what do we do? Well, as a company, we actually have several services that you can offer to the medical practices in your community. What we do is teach you how to do the billing for the doctors and all sorts of other revenue management for the doctor, because there's lots of different ways that you can help the doctor with their revenue, getting the money from the insurance companies and from the patients even. And we have services as illustrated here on the screen that you can learn about on our other webinars and on our website, which is down at the bottom of the screen there, absystems.com. So go check that out if you haven't already. What we have, folks, is a cloud-based billing system that you will use from your computer anywhere in the world that you can connect to an internet. It's cloud-based, so it means you just simply log in with your credentials that we give you, and boom, you're actually using our system and our software right across the internet in real time. Now, it's also an electronic medical record system as well, and it has a patient portal, and the doctors can use their iPads and their phones and their computers and laptops, any device that connects to the internet through a browser, any browser. And so it's platform independent. It can be used on Apple computers, Windows computers, Chrome computers. It doesn't matter what the platform is. So we've taught people from coast to coast. This is our 26th year in business. And so my wife and I started back in the early 90s doing some billing for doctors. And we got to be so successful that people were asking us how we were making money working from our home and never leaving the house, basically. And the way we did that, of course, is by simply contacting the doctors using special methods we've developed over the last 26 years, how to get into those doctors and engage with them and their office managers and get them interested in doing business with you. And so from coast to coast, from every possible background, ethnic, age groups, education, it doesn't matter. We've taught everybody from coast to coast how to do medical billing without having to go to college or take any courses in coding of any kind. And so you'll see that it's a very real business, a very needed business, as long as there's human beings that get sick, that go to the doctor has to get paid, somebody has to bill somebody for the doctor to get paid. That can be you, working from your home in your pajamas. Yeah, that's what a lot of people do that are in our business. Now, we have licensees who built their business to the point where they had to hire employees, open an office, and they built it into a major business. Some of them doing business with 100 doctors or more. And so, but you can keep it as small as you wish as well. And some people, have a handful of doctors and they're making a six-figure income and they're loving it because they're not putting in as much time as they were in their regular job. One of the ways you can check us out, because it is an investment, it is like a franchise fee. We call it a licensing fee of $28,000. So it's an investment in a business. But you'll see on our website all that you get for that fee. It's a one-time fee. There's no ongoing fees of any kind. Support, training, territories, user seats, all of that is included. Updates to the software and the codes, it's all inclusive. We never charge you another penny. And you can check us out at the Better Business Bureau here in Fort Worth. You'll see we have an A+ rating. You don't get that after 26 years and keep it without doing what you say you're going to do. Just so you know, you can go check me out on Amazon if you want to. There's some of the books that you'll find out there on Amazon. I'm a best-selling author. I've written a book called How to Reprogram Yourself for Success. And we also have one that I've written with a doctor, Dr. Vicki Ratner, called The New Thriving Medical Practice. You can find that out there as well. And then there's one called Cash Crunch to Cash Flow, which is for medical practices and general businesses in your area, because you can provide some of our services to those general businesses as well. I'm also a member of the editorial board of BC Advantage magazine. That stands for Billing and Coding Advantage magazine. It's a print magazine, over 40,000 subscribers. I'm on the editorial board and I write articles for that on a regular basis as well. Well, let's jump right into this today. And towards the end of the webinar, I'll give you some more details for those of you who are still wondering, how do you get involved in our live online training program and get started in this business. For now, let's hear from somebody who has, well, basically been where you've been. He's on the line, I hope, still. Don, you still with us?
I am, Patrick.
Well, thanks for being with us today, Don. I appreciate that.
I'm happy to be here, and happy to chat with everyone via this webinar and help them figure out if this is the right next step for themselves and, and their families.
Well, thank you, Don. That's exactly what I want you to do because, hey, I forget when you came through the training. It was a couple years ago, wasn't it?
No, not even. It hasn't even been a year yet. It was, I think Meg and I wrapped up April of 2019.
Wow, it hasn't been a year yet, has it? Well, that's great. It's
Hasn't been a year.
And what were you doing at the time, Don? Or maybe you're still involved in some other business as well?
Mm-hmm. So Meg and I at the time had a business outfit, and Meg is my business partner. We had a business that supported lawyers and law offices. We would take on project work that would help the law office run their business and support the office manager so that the lawyers had, this is for smaller firms, no more than 12 partners, but so they can do more in the areas of practicing law.
Okay, and so at the time, were y'all just looking at other businesses because you wanted to diversify?
We were looking to potentially diversify / transition into something else.
And what was it that appealed to you about, doing billing for doctors?
Mm-hmm. One of the main things that appealed to us was the fact that once a sale is made, the long-term value of a client was very different than any other business opportunity that we had come across without building a brand on your own and everything else that goes into years of building a brand.
Yeah, that's a good point, Don. There's not many businesses, at least for this low investment of $28,000, that would give the potential of having that kind of even a six-figure revenue on an ongoing basis without having to go get new clients every month.
Absolutely, and also we like the opportunity, and these answers are all from a business building perspective. Obviously, there are other what I call psychic income or revenue generators as far as helping others in the community and so forth, but we didn't know how that was all going to play out at the time of investigation, and so we were looking at it purely from a balance sheet perspective, but also not being in a position where we have to continuously sell over and over again to the same client or to a new client. Mm-hmm.
That's right. That's typical of a lot of businesses, isn't it? You make a sale of some sort, and then that's it. You have to go find another client, or you're out of business next month.
Absolutely. And so this provided us that opportunity. And then the third major reason is that I've always wanted to find something to do in the medical space, but I knew I wasn't going to medical school. So I wanted to partner in the medical field because I did see it as one of those fields that I won't say is immune to a recession, but if I had to pick one of the top three, I would categorize it up pretty high, really up there. So I did like that aspect as well.
I mean, people hear about this on the news all the time. It's 1/5 of our economy, almost 20% of our economy. And that means it's probably got a future to it. As long as there's sick people, as I said earlier, that go to the doctor, somebody has to make sure that doctor gets paid. And that's why billing has always been an option for doctors. Some of them do, some of them don't. Some of them still do it in their own office, as you found out when you went out there. But hey, there's always some doctor out there that needs our help.
Absolutely.
I've got a picture of you up here that when we actually were doing live training here in Fort Worth. We used to have people fly down. I don't know if you knew this or not, Don, but we went completely virtual towards the end of last year, and we do this online now with an instructor.
Yes,
I think,
I'm aware of that.
yeah, your instructor, in fact, I think is was Cynthia, right? Cynthia Anderson.
That's correct. Yes,
Yeah,
the wonderful Cynthia.
yeah, yeah. She's one of our licensees up in the Arizona area, and she's built her business quite large. Has like I don't know what she
hmm
said, 10 or 11 employees, I think, at this point. So yeah,
hmm
she's doing real well.
Yeah,
So
Cynthia
now,
is fantastic, and it's great to have a trainer that's in the business.
yes, they're out there actually doing it, and it's not just book learning; it's real life learning, isn't it, from her? So she does that
Absolutely.
now online, one-on-one with people. So we let them set their own schedule with her,
hmm
and they're going to go
hmm
through about the same number of hours of actual instruction that you set through, but without all the breaks and the lunches and the evenings, the travel. All of that was eliminated when people started
Right.
doing that online. And some of them are just as successful as people who've gone through the live training. Of course, it's just a matter of
hmm
how much people put into it. Really, that's all it boils down to. It.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think both mediums will probably long term, we'll look back and say they're both fantastic, just because of the system and how well the material is conveyed. I had a great experience in Texas as well as Meg did, but a lot of that was due to just the personability of Cynthia, yourself, and I have to believe that that level of engagement is still taking place, even if it's online.
It is. In fact, it's a little bit more personal because you can ask all the questions you want. Nobody else is interrupting,
Mm,
uh, and you
hmm
can just drill her with all the questions you want for this.
hmm
Again, probably 12 to 15 hours of instruction, and that's just our initial
hmm
training. We know we can't cover everything, just like you didn't get everything you needed to learn in the 1 week you were down here. As you know, we have that licensee support website that you have access to that has, gosh, dozens of hours of training on there as well.
Yeah,
So
yes. And I've spent dozens of hours on that site as well. I still do.
yeah, yeah, there's just unending things to learn in this industry. That's what's exciting about this. It really is a changing industry, and so that's why we keep people up on what is going on in the industry. You have to stay up with it as things change in today's world, or you'll be left behind.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I have a picture of Meg as well when she was there at the training, holding her certificate as well. Okay, so
hmm
Don, let's talk about what you guys did to get started. You went through and you finalized the training. You said in April of last year. And so what did you do to actually go out and start marketing? And how long did it take you
hmm
to get that first client?
Yeah, the magic question of how long does it take to get your first client? I know everyone wants to know that, and so much is built from that first client.
Yeah,
And that's the I will say the toughest part, um, because you really that's what reinforces your faith.
yeah,
Because you're wondering, does this really work? So I think it was right in April of last year. I'm pretty confident that's when we came out. Megan and I had a commitment to hit the ground running. We didn't put it on the license on the shelf for a little while, or we just went all in, and we even put our other business venture on hold, and just said we're gonna go at this and make this work. And it took us about, I think it's 2 months and 3 weeks to get our first client. Um, I don't know if that's typical for most, or I've heard an array of stories as far as how long it takes someone to get their first client, but I've also heard the best response to that from you, Patrick, on someone else's webinar, which is, this is a real business. If it takes a year, it takes a year, but this isn't a fly-by-night, get-rich-quick scheme or anything like that. And when anyone does the true value of a client calculation, it's not necessarily how much you're going to make in year one. if you were to model it out and say over 5 years of having this client, what has this one client meant to me? And that's a short amount of time as well. We're talking about meaningful numbers. And so for us, going back to how long it took, it was 2 months, 3 weeks. It was a podiatrist. And I decided, along with Meg's support, that we were going to, ABS will teach you numerous ways to go out and get that first client. And you could use those same methods to get your second, third, fourth, and fifth, because once you learn how to get one, you just repeat. So I knew long term, as far as the vision that Meg and I have for our business, is that eventually I was going to be in a position where I'm coaching or training others or my own staff. And so I wanted to be in a position, and this was the only time in the lifespan of our business that I would have the opportunity to do what I'm about to share. And I wanted to be in a position, when looking back, that the way that we decided to build the business was in a way that no one else could give me an excuse as far as why it's not working. And so therefore, what we decided to do was go into offices and foot call, so to speak. I would go into an office. I wouldn't pitch them or sell them there. We're trained from ABS as far as how to do that appropriately. And there are several steps to it. And so we followed those steps. And but where I added something that is a little bit more challenging is that we had a quota each day of how many offices I had to go visit. Meg is our operations manager, does a phenomenal job at managing the operations of our business and helping us manage my activity in the beginning. And so we would go out, target certain zip codes, come back in, report in our client management system where we went, what was the engagement like, who was the office manager, so forth and so on, and then our next steps. And so we then later on begin to identify several different territories that we said, okay, these territories are worth nesting in, so to speak. And so we began to do that. And then we, eventually landed our first client, again, 2 months and 3 weeks later, which when we look back, it didn't feel like it was that short of a time. It felt like it was 8 months because we put so much activity in on the front end.
Sure.
So
yeah.
now we're in a position, Patrick, where we're asking for referrals, and we're going about it. I won't say an easier way, but it's definitely less taxing mentally and physically than what I was doing originally. But I wanted to do that because I wanted to convey to anyone that I would ever train that you, in essence, could have dropped me off anywhere in the country and we would have gotten a client.
Yes, I believe that, Bob. Well, and you did go about it the toughest way that there is, which most people don't want to do, any kind of direct calling on offices like that. But like you said,
Mm-hmm.
we do people to do that completely different from what you think in your mind it's going to be. You're not going in, and you don't even have to engage with them basically, because you can leave them something, a brochure, a flyer, and you just pick up their business card so you have their contact information, and then follow up.
That's right. Yep. Yeah. But again, that's and I don't necessarily recommend that approach for everyone. Some people that may be in their DNA, and it's fine, and they should do it along with other methods. I don't believe that one should just focus on one method in general. Right. But that's what I chose to do for those reasons that I shared earlier. That was the whole rationale behind that.
Well, you mentioned earlier that we do teach about a dozen different ways that we've learned works to go out and market to doctors. Some take a little bit more time, some a little more money. Some of them are going to get you a client faster than others. I think the direct contact probably got you one on the average, just so you know, that was 2 months to 3 weeks. Really, that falls right into our 30 to 90 days that it takes for most people to get a client. And people think, well, wow, it takes so long to get a client. But once you've got that client could make you a lot of money over a period of time, huh?
Absolutely. There is upfront work that's required. And, I really don't know any meaningful endeavor, not just a business opportunity, but any meaningful endeavor that does not require upfront heavy lifting. It's just, that's just how it is.
Yep. I tell people this is not the simplest business there is to get up and running, but it's the most real and solid long-term business. We've got licensees that have been with us for almost the 26 years we've been in business. So it is a very
Mm-hmm.
solid business, and it'll be around for a long time to come. As you mentioned, Don, we teach about a dozen different ways to get the clients. And let's talk about this first client, because it was an interesting story. You told me that you had called on a I think a podiatrist who said she just didn't need your services at all.
That is correct. She about said it in those exact words. And that's not to scare anyone from going into an office. It's just that was just her personality. She wasn't trying to be rude. She's a very blunt individual, and I've gone back to see her several times. And what's interesting, she doesn't even really recall my initial conversation with her, but she knows who I am. But I remind her of that conversation, and she doesn't recall it, which is funny to me. So I went in to visit with her. She is a podiatrist, and she's pretty well buttoned up. I mean, there weren't any obvious pain points for her. But when I first walked into her office, I didn't know that, and I introduced myself to the office manager. They were very engaging, and we had a good dialogue, and she just happened to walk out. And she said, I happened to overhear your conversation. What else do you do? And then I told her, we're revenue cycle managers. And then she said, well, what else? And, I mentioned we have a practice management software platform, also an EMR platform. And I mentioned some of our other ancillary services. And she said, okay, what else? And I said, well, we'd like to sit down later and we can go over what else you actually really need. And she said, well, I don't need anything that you have. And I said, okay. At this point in time, I was pretty much ready to walk out. But I didn't. And I was just smiling at her, still being engaging. And I thought the conversation was over. And then she says, well, I don't need any of your help, but there's a lot of podiatrists out there that do. And call this individual. He's head of the Podiatric Association. So I said, okay, it was worth sticking around. So we got that name. Went ahead and I think it was a day or two later, drove out to his office, and it took me about a week to actually catch up with him because he was always busy or in surgery, and I didn't know his schedule at this point in time. Now I've been to so many different offices, I actually know when certain doctors are in and out, when to catch them.
Yeah.
And this is part of just laying the groundwork. And so when I finally met with him, it was under the pretense in my mind about presenting something to the Podiatric Association and asking him who else he knew in his association that, would like to meet us. And so the conversation never got there. He kept asking about our services and so forth. And then I think about 3 weeks after doing the demo, he wrote Meg and I a check and just said, how quickly can we get this started? And he became the first client.
Wow. So that first lady who said she didn't need any of your services referred you to this guy, thinking you might could connect with him because he was a part of an organization. And as you're talking to this guy, he says, I think I need your services. So he signed up. That's great.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And that's the way it works sometimes is, like you said, now you're probably working with your current clients to just get referrals from them to other doctors, because they all know one another and they know other doctors that need help, obviously.
They do.
Yeah.
They do. And so that is what we're doing now is I'm unapologetic, so to speak, as far when it comes to asking for referrals. So we just chose not to do that out of the gates, but it still ended up happening in that fashion, even though the first person I touched was someone you would call cold almost. But because we had such a meaningful dialogue and she saw the value, because she is somewhat buttoned up, but she saw the value in what she has in the marketplace and could tell that what we have is of quality. And that's what she was willing to pass along.
Now, you said you'd been back to talk with her. Do you think there's a possibility? Do you see any kind of cracks in her shell?
I actually go back to visit with her out of gratitude. I really haven't gone back thinking, okay, now she's going to sign up or so forth. I just, because,
Yeah.
and it's a funny story, Patrick. I think it was 2 weeks ago, I went in to her office because I was in the area just to say hello to her. She wasn't there. I spoke to the office manager, and I told the office manager to tell her that I stopped by and that I just wanted to say hello. And they just smiled and they said, "That sounds wonderful," and they smiled pleasantly. And they know my interests are sincere. But on my way out, there's a lab that I've been trying to engage, and on my way out, the lab door was open. So I walked into the lab, and they gave me the office manager's name about, I don't know, 4 months ago. This is when I was first out in the field, and this guy never called me back. Never replied to my emails, and they were always shocked when I told them, the office manager, "Well, your decision maker's not following up with me," and so forth. And they said, "Oh, he always emails and calls everyone back." So I walked into the office and, I put on a big smile and just said, "Hey," and they said, "Hello." They know who I am. And I just said, "So-and-so hasn't called me back. What do I need to do?" And they said, "All right, don't go through him anymore. Can we set up time to talk? We actually do need help. When can we set up a demo?" And that's exactly how it went. And I wasn't even there to see them. I went to see that other podiatrist just to say hi.
Yeah.
So this was 2 weeks ago. That client has now, well, I called them a client because they've signed a contract with us. Since then.
Oh, just the other day, huh?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Now, is this your second client then?
No, this is now our sixth.
Oh, fifth client. Okay, good.
Yeah,
Well,
sixth client. Mm-hmm.
sixth. Well, that's fantastic, Don. So the first one was the podiatrist that was referral
Right.
from the other podiatrist, and then what other types of clients have you got besides the lab?
Yeah, the second one is a physical therapist. Actually, the second one was actually a chiropractor's office.
Ah,
The third one is pain management. The fourth one is I love it, Patrick, that I'm having trouble recalling. I always wanted to get to this point.
yeah, that you
The
can't even
next the
remember
next one
what
is
types of clients you have. That's a good
yeah.
place to be.
The next one is the next one's a physical therapist after that.
Good. Yeah,
Yes.
pain management. There's a lot of money in the pain management field. I think that should be
Yeah.
very profitable. And what
Yeah.
about the
And then
lab?
we have one other podiatrist as well. That I knew I was missing somebody. So if
Oh,
anyone out there's counting, I think
yeah,
we got them all covered now.
yeah. And the lab, do you think that they will have a considerable volume? Have you found out what kind of volume they have?
Yes, their volume is pretty good. So we're diving more into that now. But up front, it's really just verbally taking their word for how much they're doing.
Sure,
But we're finding all of that, what they shared with us, to be true.
that's
And
great.
they're doing well. They're about 3 years old, and they were trying to do the billing themselves. Then they tried to outsource it, and then they took it back in house. So they haven't figured it out yet. But now they have us, so they're in good hands.
Good. Hey, Don, here's a couple of questions that have come in. Let me address
Hmm.
one of these from Greg. Greg says, Don, in retrospect, what would you have done differently during your prospecting stage? Would you have done
Hmm.
anything different?
Given what I knew then, Greg, I'm not sure I would have done anything differently. Um, and I want to answer that in a different way, but as far as the prospecting, the way we went about prospecting, and the way I chose to do it, I mean, the only thing I would really do differently would be to prospect a different way. But because of the rationale behind why I wanted to do it that way, we put a lot of thought into it before going about it that way. So
Yeah.
yeah, I would have because we put so much thought into it, that's we really paid a lot of attention. to that front end
Yeah,
work. So
that may have been a good faster way for you to get connected to the doctors in your community, because as you know, one of the things we teach, Don, is networking with your warm market, that is the people you know who might know doctors who need help,
absolutely.
and professionals in
Mhm.
your area.
Mhm.
That is the number one way that most of our licensees get a client, is just through networking. So they don't do any
Mhm.
cold calling or direct mail or sending out letters
Mhm.
or anything like that. They just get out
Mhm.
there and connect with the community. Now that's for some people, it's not for others. I think that would have
Mhm.
probably slowed you down and frustrated you, because it's a little bit longer, process sometimes to do it that way. But then at the same time, we
Sometimes, yeah.
meetings and be introduced to some professional who goes, well, I've got a doctor who said the other day, I'm a CPA, and he said he
Yeah.
was problems with his money, and so go see him, and they go sign him up. So yeah,
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's one of the beauties of the system that we're exposed to, is that there's not just one way. There's not just five ways. There's a lot of different ways that we're taught as far as how to go about it. As far as the working your warm market and warm reference referrals, that's what we're exploring heavily now. Now that we've gotten, we proved to ourselves that we can do it this other way. Now because I'm a firm believer in getting referrals. A firm believer that speeds up, that can speed up the sales process quite a bit
yeah,
once you find the right
right,
doctor.
yeah. Don, do you think that one of the reasons you went out and did that is so that if you do decide to hire sales reps, that you'll have that experience now to share with them?
Absolutely, I can teach them because I'm comfortable doing the warm market and you know warm reference when I would just getting referrals in general from other professionals and close family and friends. Even my own pediatrician, she's given us 3 referrals. She's not a client, but I pop in and see her on her admin day about every other week now.
Yeah,
Um, so, but I want to. My main purpose in doing it how I did it was because we do have that long-term vision of having sales reps. I wanted to make sure that I had the experience of what it's like to actually go in to an office that way.
yeah,
And if I had 6 clients, I should say, if we had 6 clients now and we got them all from referrals, I wouldn't be able to teach because there's no going back now to doing foot calling, so to speak. I wouldn't be able to teach that method effectively, I don't believe. And that's
yeah,
why I wanted to do it from the beginning. I wouldn't
yeah,
be motivated to go do it right now as much. So at the activity levels I did before.
yeah. Greg
So
says,
that was a personal choice. So
right. Greg says, thank you. I totally understand. Thanks for that answer. Then here's one from Daniel. He says, does the system allow an office to manage most of the office functions like scheduling patients, workflow functions, or is the system limited to certain medical office functions only? How would you describe our cloud-based system as far as you have used it so far?
sure. I would describe it in 2 words: fully integrated.
Yeah,
Um, there's we call it iClaim. It's the practice management system, more for the front office and for us to do billing for the office. When I say front office, it's anyone working the front desk, um, patient check-in, insurance verification, and so forth. But that is fully integrated with EMRX, which is our um, clinical side that allows the doctor to do their charting and their encounter work. So those two communicate with one another. So it's a fully integrated loop. And that's a big deal in the marketplace, and a huge time saver for offices once they're fully integrated with it.
yeah. Yeah, I would say our system with the patient portal, the built-in clearinghouse and eligibility checking, the scheduling, I don't think that there's any medical office out there that would need anything that ours wouldn't have already built into it. It was designed and written by a couple of doctors years ago. And so with the doctor's knowledge of what they needed in their own practice, by the way, they were podiatrists, uh, it's
Mm,
just it's
hmm
just an ideal, medical revenue management system. Yeah. So
hmm
thank you, Daniel, for that question. Here's one from Anthony. He says, how does one get a list of physicians in private practice in a particular city or area? Uh, I don't know if you've done any kind of looking at lists of things in your area, but really, there's so many doctors in any given area. There's plenty of doctors, of course, still in private practice that are prospects out there, aren't there?
Absolutely. And, for lists, that's not difficult to come across. So you can do Google searches if you choose to figure out, how many doctors are in various zip codes, or if you want to maximize your time in a day, depending on what you're doing that day, if you're visiting or if you're doing mailers, or, if you want to ask someone for a referral to a doctor and you're targeting that doctor, you want to figure out who knows this doctor. Um, Google's great for doing
Yeah.
that. So,
Yeah.
yeah, that's you would just
Uh,
use that resource.
Sure. And Anthony, we have resources, of course. Part of our training is to give you many ideas as to how to contact the doctors in your area. And I know there's companies out there that say that they'll provide you a list of, you know, 300 doctors in your area. Well, there might be 1,000 doctors in your area. You don't want to be limited to that. So we tell people we're going to help you find every doctor that's a potential client out there. And there are dozens of specialties. So when you start looking online and in the databases that we have available to us as a company, we'll show you that we can find you any doctor of any type in any area in the United States. We have all that available to us. So that's part of why you pay us a licensing fee, of course, is to have access to all those resources there. Uh,
hmm
so let's go back and talk just a second, Don, about your investment in the business. You've been in it not
hmm
quite a year now, and you've got, you said 6 clients now. Have you gotten to the
Correct.
point where you feel like you'll see a return on your investment soon, or where do you think you're at with that?
Yeah. So, projecting things out, we haven't got our full return on investment yet because of the time for setup once you sign up a client and so forth.
Right.
We've gotten a strong amount of it back already, and we are making money, which I'm always happy to say.
Yeah.
But when I model things out for doing billing for each doctor over a 12-month projected time frame, um, we'll have our money back on one client after collecting a solid 12 months.
Yeah, well, that's a good way to look at it. I tell people if you can find one doctor doing 300 or 400 claims a month, even with the percentage that you can charge for collecting for that doctor, it's not
hmm
hard to return $28,000. Most doctors would give you a return of more than that in a year's time. So that's a good way
hmm
to look at it.
hmm hmm
I have a
Yeah, we
question.
try to have the approach, Patrick, of everything being, not so much right now, and that's not always easy because today has its needs. But we try to look out a little bit and say, okay, what's the value of this transaction here? If we get into this office with one of our ancillary services, what's the long-term value? Not just, okay, we're going to make this small amount for this transaction. It's really staying outside of the now, and really multiplying things out is, I think, is the best approach to really, attaining true valuation of what we're doing, if
Yeah,
that makes sense.
yeah. John wants to know, Don, did you personally do the billing for your first client? And if yes, how much ABS training did you receive, and was it adequate?
So I am going to answer this question for Meg because she handles all of our operations. And I know this is why we have 6 clients thus far. A lot of licensees, when they get their first client, they have to take time off from marketing and then go get trained and spend time with ABS, which is phenomenal for support. They're there for you to help you walk through that next phase, because really until you have a client, I don't think one should be studying how to do billing because it's not time. But
That's right.
then, yeah, but ABS is there for you to, as much as you need, to help point you in the right direction, handhold you, log into your computer with you, process claims with you, until you get it.
Yeah. We do touch on the billing aspect, of course, using the software, John, in our initial training with your instructor
Hmm.
online, but we don't go into in depth because, as Don said, you don't need to know that much about it until you've got a client that you need to do the billing for. And then ABS and our technology partners take over and will give you all the
Hmm.
training you need, the hand holding that you need to get you to the point where you can feel really confident in doing it. It doesn't take that much. This is not rocket science, is it, Don?
No, no, it's not.
So that's a good answer. You have a partner, Don, that's helping you. Meg is
Hmm.
actually probably on the back end, doing the actual billing and getting the staff up to speed and so forth. But that allows you to focus
Absolutely.
on the marketing end of it. It's a perfect partnership.
Right. Right. It definitely is. But if we look at do the reverse math on the numbers for anyone out there who's thinking, oh well, I may need a partner and so forth. If we have 6 doctors, it's equal to one individual having 3. Do you know what I mean? So if you had 3 and then you had to do your own training and your own billing, there's a lot of licensees that do that and make
Yeah.
a meaningful amount of money for those 3. And some of them stop there and others want to keep going. Our ambition was really to build a larger business. But that's one of the great things about this opportunity. It's all up to you, and you can say, I'm going to start small and go large, or I'm going to see how it goes in a year and just build it as you please.
That's one of the questions here from Alan. He says, "What are your goals for the business, Don? Where do you want to take this thing, Don?"
Well, I have a I have a mindset which is if I'm not growing, I'm going backwards. So
Yeah.
we're gonna keep growing. Our ambition is really to onboard 12 a year. Year one is year one. So our goal for year one was really to make it to year two. But I think going through between years 2 and 3, or actually going from the end of year one to year two, I definitely think we should onboard at least 12 doctors. We may fall short of that here in April, or we may not. I'm not sure. We had a few good meetings today, but we want to grow by at least right now 12 a year.
It's
And like
just
I said, that's as
February.
of right now.
It's just February. So you got March and
Right.
April. Yeah, you got,
I have time.
you got time. Yeah, for another, get on board another 6 real quick. Let's see. Now this one is from Bob. He says, "Is there really and truly a market out there for this, or is this a business that was good 26 years ago, but is not good today?" I have an article that I'm going to throw up on the screen here that, Don, I know you're not
Hmm.
looking at the computer right now, but you're just calling
Hmm.
in. But this is from a website called Market Watch. Now, folks, if you're not looking at the screen, you might want to zoom in here on this because I'm going to circle a couple of things on here. It basically says that this is a market overview from 2020 forecasted out to 2026. And so what it's saying is that rapid growth in the healthcare sector has also led to the increasing number of medical insurances. In-house processing of insurance claims may lead to high operational costs. Now, folks, in-house means the doctor and their staff is doing that billing themselves. And it's saying that'll lead to high operational costs, need for trained personnel, and the risk of delayed payment. Uh, an error in amounting and customer dissatisfaction. This has led to outsourcing of medical claims in order to ensure minimal error and faster turnover, which also reduces the risk of delayed payment. According to the American Medical Association, everybody's heard of that, right? 20% error rate among health insurers represents an intolerable level of inefficiency that causes a loss of around $17 billion each year for doctors. Such a scenario is expected to boost demand for medical claims processing services. That's good news. That article just came out
Yeah,
January 17th. Yeah. So
right,
there is
right.
a,
There's a massive demand. The trick is when you're out there in front of a doctor, they may not know that these problems exist in their practice. What you
right.
just read, Patrick, and so I think if there's anything that you don't see coming, it's the that you're the messenger to reveal to them that one, you can help them. That's the most important thing, but to help hold up a mirror to their practice so they can see what they look like. And ABS trains us on how to do that as far as our questionnaire and how to conduct an interview when you first meet them, and what are the meaningful questions to ask, and so forth. But that questionnaire is really a mirror to the business so they can see themselves, and that's the eye opener for them.
Yeah. Yeah. I was just reading a book here. I'm going to throw this up on the screen so people can see exactly what book I'm talking about here. I'm on Amazon here on my browser, and this is the name of the book. The Future is Faster Than You Think: How Converging Technologies Are Disrupting Business and Industries and Our Lives. This is by
Mm.
Dr. DeMandis, who's written a couple of other books about the future that are just fascinating, Don. He actually talks about the healthcare industry in this book and says there are things coming down the pike that people can't even imagine technologically that will change the whole healthcare picture. But he says that
Mm-hmm.
the basic concept of patients seeing doctors and having to, the doctors having to get paid from the insurers, of course, is going to be around a long time. He doesn't think that there'll be a single payer system anytime soon, which is good news, of course.
No.
But even if it did happen, somebody has to bill even those government agencies that would pay the doctors. In Canada, for example, if you do a Google of medical billing companies in Canada, which is a single payer system, right? People think
Mm-hmm.
all the government pays everything directly to the doctors. No, the doctors still have to invoice about a dozen different government agencies, and they don't want to mess with it up there either. So I think there will always be a need for somebody like yourself to to
Mm-hmm.
help out with that. I lost
And I
my.
will say, yeah, I will add to that, Patrick, that and this isn't to twist anyone's arm to get into the business, but it's a great time to get into the business, because as changes come, you're best to adapt to those changes because you know what we're changing from. And so now you can help guide the doctors from, I understand this is what life used to look like, but now we're headed here. And you're even more of a resource as changes come down the pike.
Yeah, yeah, that's good. I think my producer behind the scenes, Adam, has put the link to this article in the question box there, which I think might show up for everybody. Does anybody see the link to that article? Or no, I'm sorry, that's Daniel put that in there. Daniel, thank you so much for that. I don't know how you found that link that fast, but he put that in there, and I may have to actually stick that in there for it to show up for everybody. But I'll do that, Daniel. Thank you very much. That's a great way to share that with other people. Okay, uh, let's see. Here's a question from Jeff. He says, does the system have any ability to interface with other electronic medical record systems? So EHRs, they're all basically standardized, I think, on what's called the level 7, which just means it's a special format that lets them talk with one another. Have you had any questions about that, Don, or dealt with any doctor yet that has a current system that wants to integrate it with ours?
Yes. So my experience has been so far for those who wanted to integrate, which we can with 99% of the platforms that are out there. And that 1%, they're just not major platforms. So you're not going to come across those very often.
Yeah.
But we've gone down that route of doing an interface, and then we do a demo, and that direction gets put on hold because they see our platform, and it's attractive, and so it gives them second thoughts around keeping their old one, and that's really how that conversation's gone. But to answer the question, our platform, EMRX and iClaim, is fully integratable with the majority of platforms that are out there.
Yes. Now, that doesn't mean that there might not be a cost for the doctor if they are using a
Mm-hmm.
current system and want to integrate that into ours. Maybe they want to import the data into ours. There may be a cost
Mm-hmm.
involved in that, but it's a one-time cost, and then they're using, well, this leading edge technology that has
Right.
won all sorts of awards out there. So let's see. Yeah, I think it was Adam that actually put that link in the question box there. Can somebody tell me if they actually see that link to that article? Does that show up, folks? Somebody tap that. Let me know in the question box that you're actually seeing that. Okay, here's a guy. Nevin says yes. Greg, yes, it works. Okay, good. Well, there's the actual link to that article if you wanted to read it there, folks. It's pretty pertinent because it just came out. Uh, let's see. I think there was another question up here that I missed. Oh, yeah. This one's asking, what time do you now put into the business, Don? Is this a 40-hour-a-week job? It could be a lot more than that, couldn't it?
It can, and my answer is I'm not counting. However, it has my full attention. So even if I'm not out marketing, I'm thinking about it.
Yeah,
So I would call that full time. I'm not dividing that mental time uh, with any other venture right now. So we're full time, and that's myself and Meg. I mean, I know if Meg were on the call, um, she's definitely putting in more than 40 hours right now, and this is mainly because we had onboarded that first client, and then towards the end of the year, some of the seeds that we sowed earlier last year, I think it was around November, we got that first client, and we got another one, and then we got three like in a month. So
yeah,
they just popped at the same time, but it was all because of that upfront activity and then our follow up. But that's what we're expecting to start happening. So Meg right now is putting in, she's doing more than 40 hours right now just because of that.
yeah.
We had our first staff conversation today, Patrick, as far as, okay, it's time to, it may be time to hire.
Yeah,
So,
you that point. At some point, you start saying, well, look, now we've got the cash flow going. We can afford to
yeah.
hire somebody who would do that now that we've learned how to do it and can train them. And why
Hmm.
not? Because, for $12, $15 an hour, depending on the area of the country, I guess, you can find people who would
Hmm.
love to do this working from their home using our cloud-based system. And of course, you give them the credentials to log in, and you can even actually log in and see exactly what they're doing. So you can manage the whole thing from anywhere as well.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Don, hard to believe, but we're at the top of the hour. I'm going to thank you so much for taking time out of your busy business to share this information with other people. I know it's been helpful to others. I see comments coming in here about that as well. Thank you, Don, for sharing today. So,
Good. I hope it really was helpful. One of my, I guess, ambitions of doing this is because because it hasn't even been a year yet. I remember being on that side of this webinar. And so I know that to listen to folks and their level of sincerity was extremely helpful to me when we first embarked on it. And then I also, called some individuals too, and they were open to talking to me, names that ABS provided. And So
Yeah.
to be in a position where I can help others in the fashion I was helped is good for me. And I hope everyone got something from the call today.
Well, thank you, Don. I know you talked to Adam about maybe taking some phone calls. So if there's people on here that want to speak with you, I'll have them get back with their ABS rep and get your direct line to call you and talk to you direct. So thank you.
Absolutely. I'm more than happy to talk to anyone.
Okay. Well, bye for now, Don. Appreciate it. Let us know what we can do to
Okay.
help.
Take care.
Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. Take care, everyone. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Folks, hey, it doesn't get any more real than this, does it? By the way, if you're still interested in learning more about our business, there's 5 steps you can take to get to the point where you too could perhaps be on an interview with me a year from now, sharing your success in the business with other people. One of them is to get our research guide. This is a 50-page PDF document that your business development representative here at ABS can get to you. If you're not sure who that is, I'm going to give you a phone number here in a moment. But it's the person who sent you the invite to this webinar. Just ask them for that and they'll email that to you. Also, be sure to browse our YouTube channel. It's right there on the screen, as you can see, youtube.com/YABS. And on that channel, by the way, you'll find over 100 other interviews that I've done over the years with people who've, again, done their due diligence, invested in our training, gone through it. They've been certified by MIRMA as a medical revenue manager, and they're building their business. So I interview those people and ask them questions just like I did today. You can watch all those you want on that channel. And be sure to ask your rep for an owner reference list. As Don just mentioned, we'll give you the names of people like Don from coast to coast who have just said, look, if you want people to call me and ask me if this is real, I'll share with them what I think about the business. They do that because they love us. Okay. Also, if you haven't seen a live demo of our software, since our software doesn't come on a CD, we can't mail you a demo. We can get online with you one-on-one using technology like we're using here today and give you a live demo of our iClaim EMRX platform. We'll ask all the questions you want, and believe me, once you see it, you'll understand why you don't really have any competition in this arena. And then last but not least, we'll send you a copy of our purchase agreement and our funding instructions if you're ready to get going. Now, I think I mentioned this already, but we have a 100% money back guarantee. The only company in this industry, in fact, I don't know of any other franchise or business opportunity that charges a license fee like we do, that will offer you all of your money back if within the first 30 days you don't like what you see, the training's not what you thought it was going to be, it's not the business that you thought it was going to be. Just ask for your money back and we'll give it all back to you. We don't want your money. We make money on the back end as you sign the doctors up. And so we want you to go out and get as much business as you can. You make money, we make money. It's a win-win situation. That, by the way, that guarantee is real. We have given people their money back over the years, a handful of people. And so it's as real as it gets. Be sure and check with the Better Business Bureau, as I said earlier. And hey, if you want to come down and visit us, sit down eyeball to eyeball across the desk from us, you're welcome to do that as well. These are our corporate offices here in South Lake, Texas, which is it's between Dallas and Fort Worth, right near the airport. So you can fly in if you want to, or drive in, and we'll visit with you there in our offices. Just let us know at a time that you're coming. Okay, here's our phone number. I'm going to leave that on the screen. If you want to call right now and just say, hey, how do I get that research guide? Who is my representative? What do I need to do to get the purchase agreement, the funding, or anything else right now? You can call that number right now, and you'll see from the menu that you press 1, and it'll connect you with a live human being that can help you with any of that information that you'd like to know.